Hello, dear listeners. Glad to see you on my channel. Today I've decided to delight you with horror stories about fire lookouts. After watching, be sure to leave your feedback in the comments and write what you'd like the next collection of stories to be about. My name's Caleb, and for 3 summers I manned the Eagle Peak Fire Tower in the Bitterroot National Forest of Montana. It's a lonely job, but I liked it. You're up there 100 feet in the air, just you and the radio, watching for smoke. The Forest Service flies you in with supplies for 2 weeks, and then you're on your own until the next drop. You get used to the quiet. You get used to the wind. This one summer, I got a new neighbor of sorts. A guy named Terry had the tower about 15 miles south of me on a peak called Sentinel. We'd chat on the radio every evening just to break the silence. He was a younger guy, maybe early 20s, doing it for the first time. He was always asking questions about the wildlife, about the weather patterns, about how to deal with the boredom. I tried to give him good advice. Told him to keep a journal, to always have a book on hand, to never ever forget to secure his food from the bears. About 2 weeks into the shift, the weather turned. A big storm front rolled in from the west. It wasn't unusual for that time of year, but this one had a mean streak. The lightning was constant, a strobe light in the sky, and the thunder was so loud it rattled the windows in my cupola. I was listening to the wind howl when the radio crackled. It was Terry. His voice was high, shaky. "Caleb, you copy?" I grabbed the handset. "I copy, Terry. Sounds like you're getting it worse over there." It's bad. The lightning. It's hitting all around me. I don't think the grounding rod is working right. Every time it hits close, I feel a shock through the floor." That's a terrifying feeling in a metal tower. I'd been through it before. "Just stay away from the metal," I told him. "Keep your feet up. It'll pass." "I'm trying," he said, "but there's something else." He paused, and I heard a sharp crackle of static. "I keep seeing lights down in the trees around the base of the mountain. Not lightning. It's like a flashlight beam. But there's no one out here. There can't be." I frowned. That was odd. Probably just St. Elmo's fire or something. The electrical charge in the air can do weird things to your eyes. "Just ride it out, Terry." "Okay," he said, but he didn't sound convinced. "Okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow." The storm raged for another hour and then passed as quick as it came. The next morning was clear and calm. I tried raising Terry on the radio for our morning check-in. Nothing. I tried on the emergency channel. Still nothing. I figured his radio might have been fried by a lightning strike. It happened. I reported it to the district ranger during my scheduled call. They said they'd send a plane over later in the week to do a visual check, but with the fire danger low and budget cuts, it wasn't a priority. 3 days went by. No word from Terry. I was starting to get a bad feeling. That night, I was cooking dinner on my little propane stove when my radio hissed to life. It wasn't a voice. It was just breathing. Heavy, wet, raspy breathing. It went on for a full minute. I grabbed the handset. "Hello? This is Eagle Peak. Identify yourself. Over." The breathing stopped. Then a whisper so faint I almost didn't hear it. "Caleb, don't let them in." The transmission ended. I sat there, the hair on my arms standing up. It was Terry's voice, but it was wrong. It sounded like he was drowning. I tried calling back for an hour, but there was nothing. I reported it the next morning. The ranger said he'd expedite the flyover.
He told me not to worry, that isolation could play tricks on your mind, that Terry probably just left his mic keyed up by accident. I tried to believe him. 2 nights later, I woke up to a thumping sound. It was coming from the metal stairs that spiraled down the tower leg. Thump, 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 like someone was climbing them, but very slowly, heavily. I grabbed my flashlight and my rifle, more out of habit than anything. I opened the trap door in the floor of my cabin and shone the light down. The stairs were empty, just the wind. I called out, "Hello? Anyone there?" Nothing but the sound of the pines. I chalked it up to a loose support cable slapping against the leg in the wind. But the next night, it came back. This time, it was louder. Clang, 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 metallic, deliberate. It wasn't the wind. It was the sound of a boot on a metal stair. I didn't open the door. I just sat on my bed, rifle in my lap, listening to it climb. It stopped just below the trap door. I sat there, frozen, staring at the iron ring in the floor. I waited for the door to be thrown open. It never was. After a long, silent hour, I finally drifted off. The next day, the plane came. I watched it circle Sentinel Peak, far in the distance. It flew low, then headed back. A few hours later, the radio crackled. It was the district ranger. "Caleb, we have a situation." His voice was tense. "The flyover of Sentinel Tower. The cabin door is wide open. Terry is not in the tower. They spotted a body at the base of the cliff, directly below his outhouse. It looks like he fell. A recovery team is being dispatched, but it's going to take them a day to get in there." Fell. A guy doesn't just fall from his outhouse. The outhouses on those towers are just a metal box bolted to the edge of the catwalk. It's a long way down. You'd have to be careless, or something else. That night, the climbing started again, but this time it wasn't slow. It was fast, urgent. The metal screamed as whatever it was scrambled up the stairs. It was like it knew I was listening now. It reached the trap door, and something heavy slammed against it from below. The whole floor shook. I jumped back, raising my rifle. Another slam, and another. The iron ring rattled in its housing. I fired 2 shots through the floor, right where the latch was. The slamming stopped. I didn't sleep. I just stared at that door until dawn.
The next day, I heard from the ranger again. The recovery team had reached Sentinel. They found Terry's body. It was bad. But the weird thing was, they found footprints around the base of his tower. A lot of them. They led away into the woods. They followed them for a bit, but they just stopped in the middle of a clearing. No signs of a struggle, no animal tracks, just a pair of human footprints ending in the dirt. That night, the radio came alive. It was that same heavy, wet breathing. Then the whisper, "Caleb, I told you, don't let them in." And then a new voice came over the speaker, a voice I didn't recognize. It was calm, flat, almost polite. "We're not going to hurt you, we just need a place to rest. We've been walking for a long time." I didn't answer. I just stared at the radio. "They're not going to find him, you know," the voice continued. "The one who fell. They'll find his body, but they won't find him. He's with us now." "Who are you?" I finally whispered into the mic, my throat dry. "We're just travelers," it said. "We got lost a long time ago, before the forest was here.
We've been walking ever since. Your friend was kind enough to let us in. We thought you would be too." I looked at the trapdoor. It was quiet. "He didn't want to let us in at first. He made us climb for a long time. We got tired. We got frustrated. That's why he fell. We didn't mean for him to fall. We just wanted him to open the door." I heard the thumping start again on the stairs, slow, heavy, deliberate. Clang, clang, clang. I knew then it wasn't a person, it wasn't a bear. It was something old, something that got lost in these mountains a long, long time ago, and it was patient. I grabbed my emergency pack, my radio, and my rifle. I didn't go down the stairs. I went to the other side of the catwalk where the emergency rappelling line was coiled. I hooked on, said a prayer, and jumped over the rail. I slid down 100 feet of rope so fast the burns on my hands didn't even hurt until later. I hit the ground running. I didn't stop. I ran through the dark forest, branches whipping my face, until I reached the fire road. I walked that road for 12 hours until a Forest Service truck found me. They thought I was crazy. They said it was grief and isolation over what happened to Terry. They sent a team up to my tower. The door was still bolted from the inside. The place was empty, but on the floor, right below the trap door, there was a puddle of dark, smelly water. I quit that day. I moved to the city. I live in an apartment building now, on the 10th floor. I can't stand the quiet. I keep the TV on all night, because every time the building settles, every time the pipes knock, I think of that sound. Clang, clang, clang. And sometimes, late at night, when the channels go off the air, I hear a faint, staticky whisper from the television. "We're still walking, Caleb. We'll find you again. We just need a place to rest."
My name is Jake, and I worked the Desolation Tower in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in Washington. They call it the Desolation Tower for a reason. It's one of the most remote spots in the lower 48. You're looking at the Goat Rocks wilderness from one side and nothing but endless green timber for 100 miles from the other. I'd been doing it for 5 years. I liked the quiet. I liked being the only person for miles. It made everything simple. This was late September. The fire season was winding down. The days were getting shorter and there was a chill in the air that meant snow wasn't far off. I was scheduled for one more supply drop, then they'd pull me out for the winter. I was looking forward to it. A hot shower, a real bed, a steak dinner. The trouble started on a Tuesday. I was up in the cupola doing my scans with the Osborne firefinder when I saw a plume of dust rising from the fire road. That was unusual. That road was gated 12 miles back. Nobody was supposed to be on it. I grabbed my binoculars and watched a beat-up old pickup truck bouncing its way toward my mountain. It took it about an hour to get to the base. I watched a guy get out. He was wearing hunting gear, orange vest, cap, rifle slung over his shoulder. He looked up at my tower and waved. I waved back, but I didn't like it. Hunters weren't supposed to be in this area. It was a protected watershed. But people got lost. People ignored signs. It happened. About 20 minutes later, I heard a banging on the metal leg of my tower, not on the stairs, but on the support beam itself. It echoed all the way up. I went to the catwalk and looked down. The hunter was standing there, looking up. "Hey," he yelled, "mind if I come up?" I didn't want company, but the rules said to be courteous. You never knew when you might need help yourself. "Yeah, come on up. Watch your step. It's a long climb." I heard his boots on the stairs for a good 5 minutes. When he finally popped his head through the trapdoor, he was breathing hard. He was a big guy, maybe 50, with a red face and small, mean-looking eyes. "Thanks," he said, stepping into the cabin.
Name's Garrett. I've been walking for 3 days. My truck died on me about 10 miles back. I shook his hand. It was clammy. Jake, sorry about your truck. You got a radio? We can call for a tow. He shook his head. Nah, left it in the truck. Stupid, I know. He looked around my tiny cabin, at the bed, the stove, the radio equipment. Nice setup you got here. Cozy. I offered him some water and a can of beans. He ate like he hadn't seen food in a week. While he ate, he talked. He said he was hunting elk. Said he'd been coming to these woods for 20 years. Said he knew them better than anyone. But the more he talked, the more something felt off. He kept looking at my radio, at my maps, at my rifle in the corner. So, he said, wiping his mouth with his sleeve, when's your next check-in? Tomorrow morning, regular schedule. He nodded, thinking. And the next supply drop? Couple days. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Good, good. That's when my gut started screaming at me. I've been alone long enough to trust my instincts. This guy wasn't a lost hunter. This guy was up to something. So, Garrett, I said, trying to keep my voice casual, which way did you come in from? The North Fork Road or the old logging track? He hesitated, just for a second, but I saw it. North Fork, yeah. He was lying. The North Fork gate had been locked with a chain and a Forest Service lock for 2 months. I knew because I had the only key. I stood up and moved toward the corner where my rifle was. You know, I heard a plane earlier. Might have been a Ranger. I should radio in, see if they can get a truck out here for you tonight. His face changed. The friendly act dropped. Don't do that. I kept moving. It's no trouble. They're happy to help. He stood up too. He was bigger than me. I said, don't. I grabbed my rifle. He was faster. He lunged across the cabin and slammed into me before I could bring the barrel up. We hit the floor hard. The rifle skittered away under the bed. He was on top of me, his hands around my throat. His face was purple with rage. You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know how this works? You're the only one out here, the only witness. I couldn't breathe. I clawed at his hands, but he was too strong. My vision started to go dark at the edges. I reached out blindly, my fingers scraping the floorboards. They found something cold. Metal. It was the handle of the frying pan I'd used for dinner. With the last of my strength, I swung it. It connected with the side of his head with a sickening thwack. His grip loosened. I hit him again and again. He rolled off me, groaning. I scrambled to my feet, gasping for air. I grabbed my rifle from under the bed and pointed it at him. He was on his hands and knees, blood dripping from his head onto my floor. He looked up at me, and there was nothing in his eyes but hate. You just made a big mistake, Tower Man, he spat. I told him to get out, to climb down and never come back. I said I wouldn't radio, I wouldn't report him. I just wanted him gone. He laughed, a low, ugly sound. You think this ends with me leaving? You don't get it. I'm not alone. That froze my blood. What do you mean? He smiled through the blood. My brother. He's down there, in the trees. He's been watching. He's got my truck. He's got our guns. We came here to wait out the heat. A little trouble back home. Nobody was supposed to be here, but you're here. So now you're a problem that needs solving. I looked out the window. The sun was setting. The forest was getting dark, and somewhere down there, in the endless trees, was another one just like him. Here's what's going to happen, Garrett said, getting to his feet slowly. You're going to put that gun down, and we're going to wait for my brother to come up, and then we're going to have a conversation about what to do with you. I aimed the rifle at his chest. I'll shoot. He laughed again. Then my brother burns this tower to the ground with you in it. You think I'm bluffing? I wasn't a killer. I'd never shot anything but a paper target, but looking at this man, I knew he'd do everything he said. I had a split second to decide. I didn't shoot him. I did something else. I stepped forward and shoved him hard. He was right by the open trap door. He stumbled backward, his arms flailing. For 1 second, he was there. The next, he was gone. He didn't even scream. I just heard the horrible, hollow sound of his body hitting the metal stairs on the way down, over and over, until it stopped with a distant, heavy thud at the bottom. I stood there, shaking, staring at the open hole in my floor. I'd just killed a man. I'd just thrown a man to his death. But I didn't have time to think about that. because from the base of the tower I heard a new sound, a voice shouting. "Garrett! Garrett!" It was the brother. He'd heard the commotion. I slammed the trapdoor shut and bolted it. I grabbed the radio. "Mayday! Mayday! Mayday! This is Desolation Tower. I have a situation. A man is dead. Another is approaching. I need immediate assistance. Over." The radio crackled. "Desolation Tower, this is Portland Dispatch. Say again? Over." I repeated it. They said they'd dispatch a helicopter, but it would be at least an hour. An hour? I looked out the window. It was almost full dark now, and I could see a light at the base of the mountain. A flashlight moving through the trees, moving toward my tower. The next hour was the longest of my life. I heard him climbing. I heard him calling for his brother, his voice getting closer and closer. He found the body at the bottom. I heard a scream of rage that echoed off the rocks. Then I heard him start up the stairs. He climbed slowly, deliberately. I could hear him crying. I could hear him talking to himself. "I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna cut your heart out." He reached the trapdoor. He pounded on it. He shot at it. Bullets tore through the wood, whizzing past my head. I laid on the floor, praying. He shot until his gun was empty. Then he just stood there, breathing heavy. "I'm not leaving," he said, his voice muffled by the door. "I'm gonna sit right here, and when you come out, I'm gonna be waiting. Could be a day, could be a week. I got time." Then I heard a new sound, the distant thump, thump, thump of helicopter rotors. It got louder and louder. I saw the searchlight through the windows. They were coming. I heard the brother move. I heard him scrambling down the stairs. He was running. The helicopter circled, then hovered near the top of my tower. A voice over a loudspeaker told me to stay put. A ranger was rappelling down. When they opened the trap door, I just pointed down. "He's down there, the brother. He's in the woods." They searched all night. They found Garrett's body at the base. They found the brother's footprints leading away from the tower. They followed them for miles. And then, just like in my first year, the footprints stopped, right in the middle of a clearing. No trees climbed, no brush disturbed, just nothing. They searched for a week. They never found him. I don't work the towers anymore. I moved to a town, got a job in a hardware store, but I can't shake the feeling. Every time I walk to my car at night, I think I see a flashlight beam in the distance. Every time I hear a noise in the dark, I think it's him, the one who got away, the one who's still waiting, because he said he had time, and out there in those woods, maybe he does. My name's Danny, and I work the Bighorn Tower in the Medicine Bow National Forest in Wyoming. This was a few years back, before they automated most of the sites. It was a dry summer. Everything was tinder. One spark and the whole state could go up. So they had every tower manned, even the old ones like mine that should have been decommissioned years ago. My tower was on top of this rocky outcrop called Sentinel Point. Below me was nothing but pine and fir for 50 miles in every direction. It was beautiful during the day, but at night it was just a black ocean of trees. You'd look out and see nothing but darkness, and after a while your mind starts playing tricks. You see lights that aren't there. You hear things in the wind. The tower itself was old. The metal was rusted in spots, the stairs creaked, and the radio was a relic from the 80s. But it worked. That's all that mattered. Every morning at 8 a.m., I'd radio in my report to the district office in Laramie. Every evening at 6 p.m., I'd check in again. Routine, boring, perfect. Until the night the radio picked up something it shouldn't have. It was about 2 a.m. I was asleep when a burst of static woke me up, loud, piercing static that cut right through me. I sat up in my cot, heart pounding, and looked at the radio. The static faded, and then I heard a voice. It was faint, crackly, like it was coming from a million miles away. "Any station? This is Mayday? Anyone copy?" I jumped up and grabbed the handset. "This is Bighorn. I copy. What's your location? Over." More static, then the voice again, weaker. "Lost. Can't find The fire. It's everywhere. I frowned. A fire? I hadn't seen any smoke. I hadn't reported anything. What fire? Identify yourself. What's your station? The voice crackled and broke up. I can't breathe. The smoke. Oh, God. The stairs are gone. I'm trapped. My blood ran cold. This is Bighorn. Say again, what is your location? There was a long pause. Then the voice came back, but it was different. Calmer. Quieter. You can't help me. It's too late for me. But maybe you can hear me. Maybe someone can hear me. What's your station? I yelled into the mic. Give me your coordinates.
The voice didn't answer. Instead, it started talking like it didn't even hear me, like it was talking to itself or to someone else in the room. I keep trying the radio every night. The battery should be dead by now, but it keeps going. I think it's because I need to tell someone. I need someone to know what happened. I listened, frozen, as the voice described a tower just like mine. It described the wind, the darkness, the endless trees, and then it described the lightning. A single strike that hit the tower, the fire that started in the cupola, the scramble to get out, the stairs collapsing, the fall. I hit the ground, the voice said, flat. I felt everything break, but I didn't die, not right away. I lay there for a long time, looking up at the tower. It was burning, beautiful in a way, like a torch in the darkness, and I thought, someone will see it, someone will come. Another long pause. I could hear my own breathing loud in the tiny cabin. No one came. The fire burned out. The days passed. I got colder. And now I don't know how much time has passed. I just know I'm still here, and I keep trying the radio, because maybe if I tell someone, I can finally stop. The transmission ended. I sat there, shaking, staring at the radio. It was a prank. Had to be. Some guy with a ham radio messing with the lonely tower man. I tried to raise the voice again. Nothing. Just static. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. At 8 a.m., I radioed Laramie. I told them about the strange broadcast. The dispatcher said she'd look into it, but she sounded skeptical. Probably just interference from a passing plane, she said, or a weather balloon, something scientific. I tried to believe her, but that night, at exactly 2 a.m., the radio crackled to life again. Can you hear me? The voice was clearer now, stronger. I think you can. I think you're the first one who ever could. I grabbed the mic. I hear you. Who are you? Where are you? I don't know my name anymore. I forgot it a long time ago, but I know where I am. I'm in a tower, just like yours. I can see the trees. I can see the stars. I can see your light. My blood turned to ice. My light? You can see my tower? Yes, the voice said. You're not far, just over the ridge. I've been watching your light every night. It's the only thing I see. It's the only thing that keeps me going. I looked out my window into the pitch-black night. There was no light over any ridge. There were no other towers for 100 miles. The closest was abandoned, burned down in a lightning strike 20 years ago. My hand trembled on the mic. What tower are you in? The voice was silent for a long moment. Then it said quietly, You're standing in it. I dropped the mic. I stumbled back from the radio, my heart hammering against my ribs. I looked around the tiny cabin, the rusted walls, the creaking floor, the old stove. This tower had been here for 60 years. There had been other lookouts before me, lots of them. What happened to them? What happened to the one who was here before they automated it? I grabbed the logbook from the shelf. I flipped through the pages, back years and years. Names, dates, weather reports, fire sightings. And then I found it. An entry from August 1987. The handwriting was shaky, desperate. HLS. Lightning strike. Tower hit. Stairs destroyed. Trapped in cupola. Fire below. Can't get out. Radio dead. If anyone finds this, my name is... The entry stopped mid-sentence. The next page was blank, and the page after that, and the next 20 years of the logbook were empty. I heard the radio crackle behind me. "You found it," the voice said. "You found my name. I remember now. My name was William. I was 22 years old. I was supposed to go home in 2 weeks." I turned around slowly. The radio was glowing faintly, the old vacuum tubes humming. "William," I whispered, You're gone. You died here, a long time ago." I know that now, but I couldn't leave. I couldn't stop trying. Every night I try the radio. Every night I hope someone will answer. And now you have. And I think that means I can finally go. The radio hummed. The glow faded. For a moment there was silence. Then, so faint I almost didn't hear it, a whisper. "Thank you." The radio went dead, completely dead. No static, no hum, nothing. I tried every knob, every switch, nothing. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there staring at the silent radio until the sun came up. At 8 a.m. I reported to Laramie. I told them my radio was broken. They said they'd send a repair crew. It took them 3 days. When the technician arrived, he looked at the radio and shook his head. "This thing is ancient," he said. "Surprised it worked at all. But this," he pointed to the inside, "this is weird. The vacuum tubes, the wiring, it's all brand new, like someone replaced everything. When did you say this tower was built?" 60 years ago, I said. He frowned. "Well, someone's been maintaining it, recently. Look at this." He pointed to a small hand-soldered connection. "This isn't factory. This is someone's repair job, and it's good work, professional." I didn't tell him about William. I didn't tell him about the broadcasts. I just let him fix the radio and left. I finished out that season, but I never slept well again. Every night at 2 a.m., I'd wake up and look at the radio. It never came on. It never made a sound. But sometimes, when the wind was just right, I thought I could hear a voice on it. Faint, distant, carried on a frequency that shouldn't exist. And sometimes, late at night, I'd look out the window at the dark forest, and I'd see a light, just a flicker, over the ridge where no tower should be. A light burning in the darkness, a signal. I like to think William finally found his way home, but part of me knows the truth. He's still out there, still trying the radio, still waiting for someone to answer. And now, every time I hear static, I listen a little closer, because you never know who might be on the other end. You never know who's been waiting to be heard.
My name is Sam, and I drew the short straw for the season at Lost Lake Tower. It's in the heart of the Okefenokee Swamp, right on the Georgia-Florida line. Most guys hate this post because of the bugs, the heat, and the gators. I didn't mind it. I grew up in South Georgia. The swamp felt like home. The tower wasn't your typical metal one. It was an old wooden structure, built on cypress pilings driven deep into the mud. The lake wasn't really a lake, just a wide, dark spot in the swamp where the water opened up. From up top, I could see for miles over the sawgrass and the cypress knees. My job was to watch for smoke, but in the swamp, fire wasn't the only danger. The locals told stories before I went in. Stories about the skunk ape, about sinkholes that opened up and swallowed whole trees, about folks who wandered off the trails and were never seen again. I laughed it off. I'd been in swamps my whole life. I knew how to handle myself. The first week was fine. Hot, humid, full of mosquitoes the size of quarters, but I had my generator, my radio, and a stack of paperbacks. I'd scan the horizon every hour, mark down nothing, and spend the rest of the time trying to stay cool. At night, the swamp came alive. The bullfrogs would start up, then the cicadas, then the occasional bellow of a gator. It was loud, but it was a good loud. It meant everything was normal. Then, on the 8th night, the silence stopped. I was reading by lantern light when I realized I couldn't hear the frogs anymore, or the cicadas. Nothing. Just dead silence. That's wrong in a swamp. That's real wrong. I set my book down and listened. For a long minute, there was nothing. Then I heard it, a splash. Not a big one, like a gator sliding in, a small one, like something stepping carefully into the water. I went to the window and looked out. The moon was out, casting silver light over the sawgrass. I could see the dark water, the shapes of the cypress trees, their branches draped with moss. Nothing moved, but the silence held. Whatever had made that splash had scared everything into hiding. I stood there for an hour, watching. Nothing. Eventually, the frogs started up again, tentatively at first, then back to their normal chorus. I told myself it was a deer or a bear that came through sometimes. I went back to bed. The next night, it happened again. The silence, like someone had flipped a switch. I was ready this time. I killed my lantern and waited in the dark. The splash came again, closer this time, then another and another. It was moving through the water, circling the base of my tower. I grabbed my flashlight and shined it down. The beam cut through the dark, hitting the water, the pilings, the mud. Nothing. But the splashing stopped the instant the light hit it. Whatever it was, it knew it had been seen. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat by the window, listening. The frogs stayed quiet until dawn. The next day, I radioed the district office. I told them I thought there was a bear hanging around the tower. They said they'd note it, but there wasn't much they could do. Just make sure I secured my food and didn't leave anything out. I did that. I brought my food cache up into the tower. I locked everything down. That night, the silence came again, but this time there were no splashes. Instead, I heard a different sound, a scraping, like something heavy being dragged across wood. It was coming from directly below me, from one of the support pilings. I leaned out the window as far as I dared, shining my light straight down. The beam hit the pilings, and I saw 'em. Marks, fresh scratches in the old wood, deep grooves like from claws, big claws, bigger than any bear I'd ever seen. They went all the way up the pilings as far as my light could reach. My heart started pounding. Something had tried to climb my tower, something heavy enough to leave those marks. I grabbed my rifle and sat with my back to the wall, watching the trapdoor. I didn't sleep a wink. The next morning, I radioed again. I told them it wasn't a bear. I told them about the scratches.
The dispatcher said she'd pass it along to the wildlife guys, but I could hear in her voice she thought I was just spooked. A lookout getting spooked wasn't unusual. They told me to stay calm and stick to protocol. That night, I didn't wait for the silence. I was already watching. The frogs went quiet at midnight. I had my rifle in my lap and my flashlight in my hand. The scraping started almost immediately. It was faster this time, more urgent. Whatever it was climbing. I heard it reach the first platform about 30 feet down, then the second. The wood creaked under its weight. I could hear its breathing now, low, raspy, hungry. I didn't think, I just acted. I aimed my rifle at the trap door and fired. The shot was deafening in the tiny cabin. The scraping stopped. I heard a heavy thud, then a splash, then silence. I waited until dawn. When the sun came up, I opened the trap door and looked down. There was nothing on the stairs, nothing on the platforms. But when I looked at the water below, I saw it. A dark stain spreading in the tea-colored water. Blood, a lot of it. I followed it with my eyes. It led away from the tower toward a small island of cypress trees about 100 yards out. An island I'd looked at 100 times and never thought twice about. I radioed the district. I told them I'd shot something, that I thought it was attacking the tower. They said a boot was on its way. It took them 4 hours to get to me. 2 wildlife officers and a deputy. I showed them the scratches on the pilings. They went quiet. One of them, an old guy named Garrett, took photos. Then I showed them the blood trail in the water. "We need to see where that leads," he said.
We took their boat out to the island. It was small, maybe 50 yards across, covered in thick brush and cypress trees. In the center, hidden by the vegetation, was a hole, a sinkhole, maybe 15 feet across, leading down into darkness. The water in it was black. The blood trail led right to the edge and stopped. Garrett shined his light down. The beam didn't hit bottom. "This is old," he said quietly. "Real old. These sinkholes can go down for hundreds of feet, connect to caves, underground rivers. You never know what's down there." The deputy looked at me. "You sure you hit it?" "I saw the blood," I said. "Lots of it." They talked among themselves for a while. Then they told me they'd put up some warning tape and file a report. They said it was probably a big boar or maybe a bear with a skin condition that made it act strange. They said it was probably dead, crawled off to die in the hole. But I saw their faces. They didn't believe that, and neither did I. I finished my season. I stayed in that tower for 6 more weeks. Every night the frogs went quiet at midnight. Every night I sat in the dark with my rifle, listening. Nothing ever came up the pilings again. But sometimes, late at night, I'd hear a sound from that island, a low, rumbling sound deep in the earth, like something groaning, like something waiting. On my last day before the helicopter came to pull me out, I took the boat out to the island one more time. I stood at the edge of that sinkhole and looked down into the black water. I thought about throwing my flashlight down just to see, but I didn't. I didn't want to know what was looking back up. As I turned to leave, I saw something on the mud at the edge of the hole, a footprint. But it wasn't a bear's, it wasn't a boar's. It was long, with thick toes, and a deep claw mark at the end of each one. It was fresh, and it was bigger than my boot. I got in the boat, and I got out of there. I never went back to the swamp. I don't talk about what happened, not really. But sometimes, when it's quiet at night,
I think about that hole. I think about what lives down there in the dark, under the swamp, and I wonder if it's still waiting, if it's still hungry, because I only wounded it, I didn't kill it, and things like that, things that live in places where the light don't reach, they got a long memory and a lot of patience.